All right. All right, guys. I know it's been a while, but figured I'd give a little update. I'm on week 3, midweek. I have, let me see. I've already been working with the rugby team. I just found out that I'll be in charge of the dance team, which I'm pretty excited about. I've always been trying to explain to my daughter that even your dancers have strength and conditioning coaches or sport performance coaches. And so, yeah, I just found out yesterday I'm meeting with a coach this afternoon. But I guess the lessons I've been learning or advices that I've been reminded about is you can only control what you can control. Also, you can plan and prepare for anything. And if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. So, yes, working at a university, the schedule is always changing. You just have to be flexible. Athletes have to be medically cleared. If they're not cleared, they can't work with you. Being an athlete isn't their sole life, so they have to be balanced moving out here, moving in. They will have to be balanced school and other extracurricular activities. If they work, they gotta balance that. So my goal is, and this is what I tell all my teams, it's more of a life coach. And I want the gym, the weight room, to help all aspects of their life, not just in the weight room or not just at their sport. And let's see. When it comes down to programming, every team has a good variety of experienced lifters, not experienced lifters. Most high schools don't have a strength and conditioning program, and so it's always safe to just assume that no one knows anything, and the more basic and simple you keep it, the more progress and progression that will happen. It's all about doing the most with the least. It is nice having teams that have some experience, so there's a big push of I'm not the only coach in the weight room. Every member on the team is a coach as well. It's important to hold everyone to the same standard and have integrity in the weight room. The goal is not to put yourself in an unsafe position or push yourself to the point where, yes, you might be setting a personal record, but at what cost? Just a lot of reminding the athletes that I am there to help them at their sport. I'm not trying to make them into weightlifters or powerlifters, even though that's my background. I want them to be able to play what they love. They're at school, especially at a D3. They don't have scholarships or being athletes. And so It's like there's not a lot into it. So my priority is to make sure they can play their sport and prevent injuries as much as possible. I don't want them hurt in the weight room. I don't want them to hurt themselves on the field, but the risk is higher and should be higher in the sport that they play. Technology. I love technology, but also hate it. It's frustrating. But I just have to put myself out there and learn something new. We have a pretty cool system. It's called Team Builder, and it's a place where you can put all your programs, and then all the athletes can be assigned to a program. And when they show up in the weight room, they just log into their account. They can load all their numbers in the system themselves. It's just going to help. It helps the sport performance department be able to calculate and get the most accurate numbers for each athlete, just because we don't, like I said, we want to regulate what they do in the weight room, and there's a science behind it to help them perform better on the field or the court or the mat, whatever sport they play. What else? But yeah, I've lost lots of sleep trying to find a balance, stressing about things that I can't control. And so it's all about being adaptable and flexible. First sessions with all my teams is just going over expectations, introductions. I want them to know why I'm a sport performance coach, and I want to know why they play the sport that they play. The more I know them, the more I can better motivate and encourage each athlete as an individual, and not just trying to force them all into one box. Not every athlete is motivated or inspired by the same things. Not everyone plays their sport for the same reasons. Everyone has their own specific why. And as a coach, I want to strive to understand and know what every athlete's why is. So the first session's always introductions, and then it's like crash course week of learning the techniques, movements, and then testing. It's important to make sure that you test in the weight room so you have something to compare results to. It's important to have results that are measurable, and yet it's hard because rugby is in season pretty much all year, because they have 15s and they have 7s, and so you can't, if they're not training on their own during the summer, it's hard to get them to max out at the start. Also, it's just like I said, like in the ideal perfect world, you'd want the team at the school 2 weeks prior so they can start conditioning before the season starts. But that's not the real world. And so, like even working with rugby, we had 13 people medically cleared, and then the next day we had 18, and then I'm pretty sure there's about 21 now. Yeah, but once school starts, there should be 30, about 35. And so it's important for me to make sure I can be flexible with my programming and my approach, because it's about the team. And so if I can teach and set the tone for the athletes that I currently have on the team, then as new ones trickle in, they can just learn who I am and what I go by based off their team. But yeah, so it's just crazy. You can have an outline, but for what actually happens, you just have to adapt. On Saturday, I wanted to build some rapport with the rugby team, so I went and I played a touch rugby with them, and I ended up pulling my hamstring. If you don't know what a pull is, it's when the hamstring tears. And so luckily it's not too bad. I just can't demonstrate hinging movements. It's hard to sit down. As you can see, I'm walking, but I have to walk with my quads. And so there's just a lot of things that I have to do to adapt. But it wasn't expected. And yet I think it was definitely worth it, just because it's showing the rugby team that I'm bought into them as people, not just the weight room. I'm slowly getting to know everyone's names. It's hard. A lot of them are Polynesian, so it's hard for me to pronounce their names, but I will get it. And it also doesn't help that I stutter, so it just makes it a lot harder. But that's just how it is. Let's see if I've forgotten anything. Lack of sleep. I'm excited to work with women's wrestling. I've already met with a coach, and two of the coach's daughters who is on the wrestling team. I'm planning on meeting with them outside of the weight room before we actually make it in the weight room, just so we can have more of a casual introduction. Getting to know you conversation. I want them to understand who I am, have more of a slow start, because I don't want to have this pressure of performing in the weight room while you're still trying to figure out who the coach is. I'm big on breaking down expectations that I have for the athletes, myself as a coach, and then what expectations that they can expect from me. And then there's all of the admin rules and policies that the sport performance director has for the weight room. I'm not sure if I already said it, but the weight room is open to the entire school. And so when there's not a team in it, then it's like an open gym. So it throws a lot of curveballs into the schedule, as well as trying to maintain the integrity of the equipment. Southern Virginia University has 29 teams, so when you have 29 teams, 600 athletes using it on top of the entire university, it just makes things interesting. And it's super cool to see what the sport performance director and the rest of the team has been able to accomplish with not the most ideal facilities. And it's for me, I look at as like, well, if we can do the most with the least, and I can see how that works, then imagine when I get a job somewhere else and they have more, or if they have less. It makes the rest of my journey as a sport performance coach simpler, because I have the knowledge, have the education. But the one thing, before I end this, the one thing that has been coming up over and over again is a lot of the sport coaches want to know if their athletes can go to me for questions about programming or about why I'm having them do something in the weight room or on the field for conditioning. And I guess in the past, it's been as I reflect, I guess old school strength conditioning coaches can be more, I don't want you to ask questions, I just want you to do it. And in the world today, it's important to educate. We want our athletes to have a good experience with the gym, so when they're done with their sport, they'd be like, hey, I had such a good time at the gym. When I was an athlete, I'm gonna go to the gym and be healthy. Find a program when I'm not an athlete, because that's what helps people have good longevity of life, especially with mental health, right? And so as a coach, it's important to make sure you educate, you break things down. You want your athletes to understand why you're doing something. You don't want them just to do the movement. I know there's specific times when athletes need to trust, but as a coach, there shouldn't ever just be random exercises just to make them suffer. It is okay to have specific exercises to make them suffer if their sport requires them to have a higher work capacity, higher muscular endurance, and stamina with their matches, right? But there should always be a purpose and a reason. And as a coach, it's important to make sure that you educate and teach while you're doing something. You want a long-lasting impact on them, not just a temporary adjustment, a temporary result. You don't want to be a Band-Aid. You want to be a well thought out a surgery process. All right, everything has its purpose. Well, I'm going to do my best to make these posts a little more accurate. But just like I said, right now I'm just working with my rugby team. I'm planning on taking my kids to a rugby match on the 31st. That's their first one. I'm super excited about it. I am very thankful that I can watch my teams compete and have that opportunity. As a sport performance coach, I don't want to take the back seat. I know my value in every athlete's program. And it's good for them to know that I'm willing to invest outside of the weight room in their actual sport, just to build that rapport. If your athletes aren't bought into you, and they know that you're not you bought into them as people, they're just not going to trust you, and they're missing out on lots of opportunity for success and growth. But yeah, all right, guys. I need to get on with my workout. My wife's already started. I'm over here just walking. The grind never stops.